The night was cold, bitterly cold. Rain hammered down against the concrete driveway of the Grand Dynasty estate, a massive mansion that sat on the hill like a fortress. The kind of place that made you feel small just looking at it. The kind of place where secrets lived behind every door. And tonight, those secrets were about to shatter. A woman stood outside the towering iron gates. Her clothes were soaked through. Her hair clung to her face in wet strands. Her arms were wrapped tightly around a small bundle of baby, crying with that desperate, exhausted wail that only comes after hours of screaming. She was shivering, her teeth chattered. But she never stopped holding her child close. "Please," she begged, her voice hoarse. "Please, my baby is sick. She can't take this cold. Please, I'm begging you." Behind the gate stood three figures, a woman in an expensive silk robe, a man holding an umbrella, and an elderly woman with cold, cruel eyes. The woman in the silk robe laughed, actually laughed. "You have some nerve coming here," she sneered. "Do you really think he'd ever choose someone like you? A foreigner, a nobody from Africa?" The man beside her shook his head. "Look at her. Pathetic. She probably made up that entire story about being married to the master. How desperate do you have to be to lie about something like that?" The elderly woman stepped forward, her voice like ice. "The master abandoned you the moment he left. If he wanted you here, he would have told us. He didn't. That tells me everything I need to know." The African woman pressed her cheek against her crying baby's head. Her body trembled not just from the cold, but from something deeper, something broken. "Please, she's running a fever. She hasn't stopped crying all night. I just need to get her warm. One room, just one room. Enough." The silk robe woman's voice cut through the rain like a whip. "You will not step foot in this house. When the master returns, he'll thank us for getting rid of you. You think he'd want his legacy stained by some foreign woman and her bastard child?" The baby cried harder. The woman held her tighter, and the rain kept falling. But none of them knew that the Mafia boss's car was already turning into the driveway. Welcome to Tina's Love Stories, where every tale takes you on an emotional roller coaster of love, betrayal, and justice. If you love stories where the underdog rises and villains get what they deserve, you're in the right place. But before we continue, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which country you're watching from. Let's get back to the drama. High above them, the mansion's lights flickered. A single window on the third floor, the master bedroom, remained dark. The African woman looked up at that window, her eyes filled with tears that mixed with the rain on her face. "He promised," she whispered so softly only the baby could hear. "He promised he'd come back. He promised." The baby whimpered. Her tiny hands reached out. "She needs her father." The African woman's name was Zuri. She was 32 years old. She had been a humanitarian worker. Once. She had degrees. She had dreams. She had a whole life that had nothing to do with this mansion, these gates, these cruel people staring down at her. But then she met him. His name was Tae-jun. He was a powerful man. The kind of man who could make people tremble with a single glance. He was feared throughout the city, known for his coldness, his ruthlessness, his iron control over everything. Everyone said he had no heart. Everyone was wrong. The baby in Zuri's arms was proof of that. Little Min-seok, 7 months old. With her mother's gentle eyes and her father's fierce determination, she was everything to them. But Zuri's secret had gotten out. Tae-jun's family had discovered that he had married a foreign woman, and they were furious. They had tried everything to keep them apart. Threats, bribes, lies. And now this. Tae-jun had been away on business for 2 months. But he was supposed to be back today. He had promised. Zuri had come to the mansion to surprise him. Instead, she found the gates locked, the servants turning her away. And now, 3 hours she had stood here. 3 hours in the freezing rain. 3 hours of watching her baby's fever climb. "I'll bring you inside," Zuri whispered to her daughter. "I promise, baby. I promise." Inside the mansion, the three people stood at the gates, watched from the warmth of the entryway. They were part of a family that had controlled this house for generations, and they would do anything to keep it that way. Yoon-ah, the woman in the silk robe, was Tae-jun's adopted sister. She had never accepted him. When he rose to power and inherited everything, she seethed with jealousy. She believed it should have been hers. The man beside her was her husband, Min-seok. He worked as Tae-jun's assistant, but in reality, he was spying for his wife. Together, they fed lies to the family, poisoned relationships, and eliminated anyone they saw as a threat. The elderly woman was Madame Hwang, Tae-jun's stepmother. She had raised him since he was a child, but she had never loved him. She only saw him as a tool to secure their family's wealth. And now this foreign woman threatened to ruin everything. Madame Hwang spoke slowly, her voice like a rusty blade. The master has been gone for 2 months. In that time, this woman has sent messages, letters, photographs. She claims the child is his. Yoon-ah laughed again. She's clearly delusional. Why would he ever want to be with someone like her? She's not Korean. She's not wealthy. She has no status. She's nothing. Min-seok nodded. Even if she is his, scandal would destroy everything we've built. The other families would laugh at us. They'd see us as weak. Letting a foreigner into the family. Madame Hwang's eyes narrowed. Which is why it will never happen. She will stay out there until she realizes she is unwelcome. She will leave, and we will make sure she never returns. And then they heard the roar of an engine. It echoed up the hill, powerful and unmistakable. All 3 heads snapped toward the driveway. A long black car was approaching, headlights cutting through the rain like 2 burning stars. It's him, Min-seok breathed. He's back. The baby, as if sensing something, stopped crying for the first time in hours. Zuri's heart leaped into her throat, and all 3 inside the mansion began to feel very, very afraid. But when the car stopped at the gates, something was wrong. No one got out. The engine idled. The headlights remained on, illuminating the scene: the African woman holding her baby, the closed gates, the 3 figures watching from inside. Then the door opened, and Tae-jun stepped out. He was tall, imposing, wearing a black suit that was perfectly dry despite the rain. His expression was calm, the kind of calm that came right before a storm. His eyes swept over the scene, the woman, the baby, the gates, the people standing in the doorway, and then he saw the rain soaking his wife and daughter. Something shifted in his face, something dangerous. Open the gate, he said. His voice was quiet, deadly quiet. It carried through the rain like a blade through silk. Min-seok scrambled forward. Master, you're back. We were so worried. Open the gate. I mean, of course. Min-seok's hands fumbled with the lock. His fingers trembled. He had seen Tae-jun angry before. He had seen him make people disappear. But this was different. The gate swung open. Tae-jun didn't wait. He strode forward, his footsteps splashing through puddles, his eyes locked on Zuri and the baby. Yoon-ah stepped forward, her smile fake and bright. Brother, welcome home. We have so much to tell you. This woman showed up out of nowhere, claiming. Tae-jun walked past her like she didn't exist. He stopped in front of Zuri. The rain continued to fall. Zuri's body shook. Her lips were blue. Her eyes, red and swollen from crying, looked up at him with a mixture of relief and something else. Something broken. You came, she whispered. Tae-jun reached out. His hand, which had ordered dozens of executions, gently touched her cheek. Zuri, he said, and his voice cracked. What happened? The baby whimpered, and Tae-jun looked down. His daughter. His child. He reached for her, and Zuri slowly transferred the baby into his arms. Little Min-ah, still feverish and weak, opened her eyes and looked at her father. He held her like she was made of glass, like the most precious thing in the world. Then he looked back at the 3 people in the doorway. Explain, he said. Madame Hwang stepped forward, smooth and practiced. Tae-jun, darling, there was a misunderstanding. This woman arrived claiming to be your wife. Obviously, we were skeptical. We couldn't just let anyone into the house. You locked her out. Her story was dubious. You locked my wife and my daughter out in the freezing rain. His voice rose. For the first time, his composure cracked. The mansion seemed to tremble. Yoon-ah backed away. Brother, we didn't know. You didn't know what? Tae-jun turned on her, his eyes blazing. You didn't know she had my ring. You didn't know she had my child. You didn't know that I sent her here myself. I told you she was coming. I sent you a message. Madame Hwang's face went pale. Min-seok swallowed hard. We never received any message. Liar. The word hung in the air. Min-seok shook his head. I swear, master, we never. Where is my assistant, Seo-jin? The question was directed at no one. And yet, it hit like a slap. Yoon-ah's face went white. Seo-jin? What does he have to do with anything? Seo-jin was supposed to deliver the message. He works for me. He has worked for me for 10 years. And you're telling me the message never arrived? Tae-jun's eyes flickered with something dark. Something that made Min-seok take a step back. Because he had already figured out the truth. He knew that Seo-jin had been bought. He knew that his entire inner circle had been compromised. And he knew that the people standing in front of him had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Zuri swayed on her feet. She was still shivering. Tae-jun's attention snapped back to her. His anger turned to concern. He placed his free arm around her, pulling her close. "You're sick," he said. "You're both sick." Zuri shook her head. "I just need to get her warm. That's all I wanted. You should have been inside hours ago. I tried. They wouldn't. Don't." He silenced her gently, kissing her forehead. "Don't explain. I know what happened. I saw everything." And he had, from the moment he turned into the driveway. He had watched them mock her, taunt her, lock her out. And he had seen the three people inside who thought they could destroy her. "You're never going to be cold again," he whispered. "Never again. I promise." He carried the baby in one arm and led Zuri with the other. He walked toward the mansion. Yoon-ah stepped aside, her face pale. "Brother, we can explain." "You can explain nothing." He stopped just inside the doorway, and then he turned to face them. "I will hear your explanations in 1 hour. In the main hall, everyone who was involved will be there. Everyone who stood by and did nothing. Everyone who watched my wife and child suffer." Madame Hwang's eyes narrowed. "Tae-jun, you must be reasonable. We acted in the best interest of this family. You acted in your best interest. And you failed." He walked away, not looking back. And the three of them stood there, alone, knowing that their world was about to come crashing down. Zuri was shivering violently now. Her teeth chattered. Her skin was cold to the touch. Tae-jun carried her to their bedroom. He placed Min-ah on the bed and wrapped her in warm blankets. Then he turned to Zuri. "Let me get you dry clothes. A hot bath, everything you need." "I don't care about that," she whispered. "I just need to know you're safe. I was so scared. I thought you might never come back." He knelt in front of her. "I will always come back. Always. You and Min-ah are my life. You're everything." Zuri's eyes welled with tears. They said you wouldn't want me, that you'd abandoned us. They lied. I know you would never do that. But they were so sure. They said it like they knew something I didn't." Tae-jun's jaw tightened. "They wanted you to believe that. They wanted you to leave, to give up. But you didn't. You stayed. For our daughter. I would have stayed all night. Until you came. I would have stayed forever." He pulled her into his arms. "And I would have found you. Always." But something in Zuri's expression troubled him. A flicker of fear. "There's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice trembling. "Something about my past. Something I never told you." He looked at her, concerned. "What is it?" "Before I met you, before I came to Korea, I used to work in a village. In my home country. A village that was controlled by a warlord. He was ruthless, violent, and he destroyed everything he touched. I went there to help the children. To feed them, educate them, protect them." She took a deep breath. "He wanted me. He wanted my loyalty. And when I refused, he burned the village to the ground. Everyone I tried to save, gone. All of them. Because of me." Tae-jun was silent. "I managed to escape. I traveled for months, crossing borders, surviving on nothing. I came here to start over. I met you. And I fell in love with you. More than anything in the world." She looked at him, tears streaming down her face. "But I never told you. Because I was afraid you would see me as weak. The woman who couldn't save anyone. The woman who ran away." Tae-jun's expression didn't change. But his eyes softened. "Zuri," he said quietly, "the man who burned that village, you know his name." She nodded. "He's a powerful man. He's connected to everything. He has people everywhere." "Tell me his name." She hesitated. "Zuri, trust me. Tell me his name." She whispered it, so softly he barely heard. And in that moment, something shifted. Tae-jun's expression hardened. He recognized the name. And he knew exactly what needed to be done. "Listen to me," he said, holding her face in his hands. "You are not weak. You are the strongest person I have ever known. You survived hell. You built a new life. And you gave me a daughter who is the most precious thing in the universe." She looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "I will protect you. From everything, from everyone. Whatever it takes. The past is behind us, but the truth will always catch up." He wiped her tears. "Now rest. You and Min-ah. When you're ready, I will handle the rest." The mansion's main hall was massive. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, portraits of ancestors staring down from the walls. Tae-jun sat at the head of the long table. His expression was unreadable. The three main culprits sat before him. Yoon-ah, Min-seok, Madame Hwang. But there were others now. Servants who had been present. Guards who had stood by and done nothing. Half the household. Zuri stood beside him, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The baby was sleeping peacefully in her arms. And in the corner of the room, another figure stood as Tae-jun, the man who had been paid to silence the message. His face was ashen. He knew what was coming. I want to know, Tae-jun said quietly, who ordered the message to be suppressed. Who told my wife she was unwelcome? Who made the decision to leave her outside in the cold? He looked around the table. Tell me. Min-seok cleared his throat. Master, we were merely following orders. Whose orders? Min-seok glanced at his wife, then at Madame Hwang, then back at Tae-jun. The order came from the top, he stammered. Tae-jun's eyes narrowed. Which top? Madame Hwang laughed, cutting through the tension. Tae-jun, darling, you really believe that everyone has to kiss the ground this woman walks on? She is not your equal. She will never be your equal. And we were simply protecting the family from the shame of having her in our home. Tae-jun's expression didn't change. Let me explain something, he said quietly. Zuri is my wife, in every sense of the word. I married her 3 years ago. I kept it secret because I was protecting her from people like you. He stood up. The family would have been ashamed. The family would have been shamed. Let me tell you how much of a problem that is. It is exactly zero problem. Because she has given me more love, more loyalty, and more honesty than any of you have ever shown me in my entire life. He walked around the table, stopping in front of Madame Hwang. You raised me. You pretended to love me. But you did it for money, for power, for status. And when you realized I loved someone outside your control, you tried to destroy her. He turned to Yoon-ah. You were jealous. You wanted what I have. So, you fed lies to everyone, hoping to turn them against me. He turned to Min-seok. You did everything your wife told you. You betrayed me. And you didn't even have the courage to do it yourself. Finally, he walked to Tae-jun. You worked for me for 10 years. You knew the message was important. You knew what could happen if I didn't get it. And you let yourself be bought. Tae-jun's hands were shaking. Master, I'm sorry I was weak. I needed the money for my family. If you had asked, I would have helped you, Tae-jun said coldly. Instead, you took their money. And now look at what they made you do. Because Tae-jun was about to reveal something that would change everything. The true reason he had been paid to stay silent, and the secret that had been hidden for months. Tae-jun fell to his knees. His face was pale. His hands trembled violently. Master, I didn't just take money. I took a message, a threat. From the same warlord from Zuri's past. The room fell silent. Zuri's eyes widened. What? I was contacted months ago. Tae-jun continued, his voice breaking. He knew where she was. He knew she was married to you. He said if you didn't send her back to him, he would come here. He would destroy everything. Madame Hwang's face turned white. Yoon-ah stared in shock. Min-seok's mouth fell open. The warlord, as Tae-jun said, he's connected to the families who oppose you. He's been planning this for months. He wants to use Zuri to get to you. He wants to break you. And he paid me to make sure you didn't find out. Tae-jun was silent. Then he turned to Zuri. Is this true? She nodded slowly. I didn't know he was still looking for me. I thought I had escaped him. I thought. There's more, Tae-jun gasped. The warlord is sending men, tonight. They're already on their way. The plan is to stage an attack, make it look like a rival family. And they're going to take Zuri and the baby and vanish. The room erupted. Guards scrambled. Servants panicked. Yoon-ah screamed for help. But Tae-jun was calm. He looked at Zuri. He looked at Min-ah. He looked at the people cowering in fear around him. And he made a decision. Everyone, out of this room. Now. Guards pushed the servants out. Min-seok, Yoon-ah, and Madame Hwang tried to follow. But Tae-jun's voice stopped them. Except you three. They froze. Tae-jun told me the truth. Tae-jun said quietly. The warlord is coming. But he's not going to take my wife. He's going to be captured. And he's going to confess to everything. Including the role you three played in this. Madame Hwang's composure shattered. Tae-jun, don't be absurd. We didn't. You didn't what? You didn't collude with my enemy. You didn't feed him information. You didn't hope that if Zuri disappeared, you could keep your power. He turned to Yoon-ah. You wrote to him. You told him exactly where she was. You sent him photographs of her and the baby. Her face went white. I didn't. I found the letters. In your study. You thought you were so clever, hiding them in that compartment behind your jewelry box. Min-seok fell to his knees. Master, I didn't know. You didn't know. You helped her write them. I have a witness. I have evidence. And now you're going to pay. Because Tae-jun had been planning his revenge for weeks. He had suspected the betrayal. He had planted evidence. He had waited for them to reveal themselves. And now, they had. He walked to the door and opened it. A squad of guards stood outside. In the middle of the hallway, bound and gagged, was a man in ragged clothes, the warlord himself. The man who had burned Zuri's village. The man who had been hunting her. And he was terrified. I brought you a gift, Tae-jun said, smiling coldly. The warlord arrived 2 hours ago. He didn't expect to be greeted by me. Zuri stared in shock. How did you? I've been tracking him since the day you told me his name. I knew he would come for you. I just needed the perfect moment to capture him. And he delivered himself right to my doorstep. Because Tae-jun had a plan that would eliminate all of his enemies in one night. And it was about to begin. The warlord was dragged into the room. Yoon-ah screamed. Madame Hwang stepped backward. Min-seok looked like he was about to faint. Tae-jun walked around the table, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He stopped in front of Zuri. I promised you that the past would never hurt you again, he said quietly. I meant it. He looked at the warlord. Tell them, Tae-jun commanded. Tell them what you and these three planned. The warlord, his face bruised, his voice shaking, spoke. The letters, the messages, I paid them. They told me where the woman was. They gave me photos. They said if I took her, the Korean family would be broken, and they would be left in control. Yoon-ah screamed. Liar. You're lying. He's not lying, Tae-jun said. Because I have the proof. He pulled a set of documents from his pocket. Letters, banking records, wire transfers. Every single piece of evidence linking you three to the warlord. He threw them onto the table. Read them. See for yourselves. Yoon-ah grabbed the papers, her hands trembling as she scanned them. Her face went white. Tae-jun, brother, I didn't. You did everything, he said quietly. And now, you're going to face the consequences. Tae-jun looked at the guards. Arrest them, all three. They're going to be handed over to the authorities. Along with the warlord. Along with every single piece of evidence. Madame Hwang stepped forward. Tae-jun, you can't do this. I raised you. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing, he said coldly. You gave me orders. You gave me fear. You gave me a lifetime of manipulation. And now, you're going to face justice. He walked toward her. You thought you could destroy my wife. My daughter. My family. But you were wrong. Because I love them more than I ever loved this house. More than I ever loved this life. He stopped in front of her. And I will do whatever it takes to protect them. The guards moved forward. Yoon-ah screamed. Min-seok fell to his knees, begging for mercy. Madame Hwang stood frozen, her face a mask of shock. But Tae-jun was unmoved. One by one, they were dragged out of the room. The warlord followed, and when the doors closed behind them, silence filled the hall. Zuri sat down heavily on the chair, her legs giving way. The baby stirred in her arms. It's over, she whispered. Tae-jun knelt in front of her. It's over, he agreed. But she shook her head. He was always going to come after me. He was always going to try. And you risked everything. Your business, your family, your life. You and Min-ah are my life, he said fiercely. Without you, none of this matters. She looked into his eyes. She saw the truth there. The ferocity, the love. He was a powerful man, feared by everyone. But in that moment, he was just a husband and a father, desperate to protect the people he loved. And then the baby little Min-ah opened her eyes. She looked at her father. She smiled. And something remarkable happened. In the corner of the room, a locket fell from Zuri's pocket. A locket she had been carrying since the day she left the village. A locket that contained a photo of her mother, and the warlord himself. Because the warlord was her own cousin. He had been jealous of her. Jealous of everything she accomplished. And he had destroyed everything she loved because of it. But she had never told anyone. Zuri, Tae-jun said, noticing the locket. What is this? She hesitated. I never told you the whole truth, she said quietly. The warlord is my cousin. We grew up together. But I left the village, and he became obsessed with me. He didn't want me to leave. He said I belonged to him. Tae-jun's expression flickered. He lied, she continued. He said the village was burned because I refused him. But it was burned because I discovered his secret. What secret? Zuri took a breath. He was selling arms to the same families who oppose you. He was building a network. And when I discovered it, he tried to silence me. But I escaped. And I came here. Because Tae-jun realized something. The warlord wasn't just a rival. He was connected to the people who had been trying to destroy him for years. And this was the final piece of the puzzle. Tae-jun held the locket in his hands. Zuri, he said quietly, I think you just gave me everything I need to destroy the warlord and everyone connected to him. She looked at him in confusion. He's been a target of mine for years, Tae-jun explained. He's connected to every major rival family. I've been trying to find a weakness, and you just gave it to me. She stared at him. Your family, she whispered. His family. The people who tried to destroy me, they're the same people who tried to destroy you. He nodded. And now I know exactly how to stop them. He stood up, a fire in his eyes. Everyone in the house who helped those three will be dealt with. Everyone who stood by and watched will be questioned. And then we will go after the warlord's entire network. She reached for his hand. I'm not going anywhere, she said. I'm with you. He knelt beside her. You're the strongest person I know, he said. The bravest. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life protecting you and our daughter. She smiled. Promise, promise. The next morning, the mansion was quiet. Zuri sat on the terrace, Min-seok sleeping peacefully in her arms. The rain had stopped. The sun was rising over the hills. Tae-jun stepped out behind her, a cup of tea in his hand. The authorities have taken everyone, he said. They're being prosecuted. Everything will be handled. She nodded. What happens now? She asked. He sat beside her. Now we rebuild. We raise our daughter. We build a life together. She turned to him. Your family, the people who locked me out, they're gone. They're gone, he confirmed. And they won't be coming back. He took her hand. Zuri, no one will ever hurt you again. I will make sure of it. And so, the woman who was locked out in the cold became the most respected woman in the mansion. The baby who cried in the rain grew up loved and protected. And the Mafia boss who everyone thought would never fall in love found his heart and found his strength. Because true power isn't about fear. It's about protecting the ones you love. Like this story, then you'll love what we have coming next. We bring you gripping tales of love, betrayal, and ultimate justice that will keep you hooked from start to finish. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Tina's Love Stories, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Every comment, like, and subscription helps us bring you more incredible stories like this one. What country is watching today? Let us know in the comments.